completely strange match. My gosh. Felt miserable watching this for 90 minutes. The 82nd minute, I'm like, you know what? Actually, Roma's turned it on a little bit. And I see them start to push up the pitch. I'm like, this is fine. Why can I not have this for the entire 90 minutes? Why do we have to wait until the last 82nd minute until they start to get players up the pitch? Like it's never simple. It's never easy. It's like, oh, they played bad and they lost. There's always some exception, I feel like, with this team. And I want to get to the good first. I'm very glad that Roma did not give up. That for even when all seemed lost late in the match, you're down 2 goals at the San Siro, the whole stadium is on their feet supporting that you can overcome that against last year's the reigning Scudetto champions. And you can turn what was by and large a negative match into something positive and come out with honestly what feels like a win. It's not a win. You don't get 3 points. But for Milan, it definitely feels like a loss. And they do this all without Mourinho actually being there on the pitch. Of course, he's still serving his suspension with players not having good performances. So I'm going to go through some of my notes. Thanks for joining in, guys. I see people, starting to really come in and write down some comments. Let me know what you thought. Let me know what you're thinking, opinions, what you think of the players, the setup, the tactics, the formation. I want to know everything. Let's have a very good discussion right now, and let's jump into it. Yes, incredible finale. HH says, versus Milan and Inter and Juventus away, we didn't lose, and that is something. And going into this, I had a good feeling. That good feeling did not come. I still don't have a great feeling because of what I saw for the majority of this match. However, Roma come away with a point which I think gives them a little bit of hope. Like, you know what? We're not a bad group of guys. Actually, we can show that we can take any team. And when all seems lost, and it seemed like a very dark moment I'm on a bunch of Twitter groups and WhatsApp, and everybody's saying the same thing. Like they're playing like crap, and it's just nothing's working. What are they showing? And in the last 10 minutes, this team comes alive, and they score 2 goals. Incredibly difficult to do that. So much guts. The changes that were made, substitutions, and you're like, oh, Tahirovic comes on, and inexperienced Primavera players. Abraham, who was absent or had a tough time for so much of the match. Then I'm reading some of these comments, and like it does feel a little bit like a win. It is very good for the confidence, but in the end, there are some really big issues that need to be addressed that I think Mourinho will be addressing, that I think the players need to look in the mirror and ask themselves. But at the same time, and I wrote this towards the end of the game on Twitter, that when this team is allowed to get up to the pitch, good things happen. Because we see that today, that in very few moments, we see when they can get and assume places that are dangerous and not just attackers receiving the ball in their own half and then having to figure it out, but giving them a little bit to work with goes a long way for this side. And I want to take a look at some of my notes here before I hit the starting 11 and the very few opportunities that Roma had. These are the areas that I saw for improvement. And I'll be getting to each and every comment. The first one was work rate. I thought in the first half, Roma did not work all that hard. I thought that when there could be runs that were supposed to be made, they weren't. Looked a little bit lackadaisical, as if they didn't get rest, and almost like they were afraid or they were being held back in a certain way, if that was tactical or these guys are fit, they're professionals. And to see the run not being made tells me that it's part of the plan. Like as if Mourinho didn't want to commit too many forward and was afraid that Leao or Salamakers, these guys could fix those gaps. And that risk needs to be taken. And I think of Kamara, and in the few games that he's had in red and yellow, what he does so well, which I don't see from these midfielders often, is somebody who gets the ball from the center and runs through the pitch and like really shows that energy, that intensity to not just take players on, but actually to advance it. And too often, I think the midfielders are left to sit too deep. And then what happens is the front three or the front four, they're calling them Fabulous Four with Tammy Dybala, Abraham Pellegrini, is that they receive the ball in the middle, and that is not good. It's not helping them at all to get it that in those positions, because then at that point you have to take on 5 or 6 guys, and that's really limiting the potency of the attack. Up until the 75th minute, Roma's XG, expected goals, was 0.10, as in 1/10 of an expected goal. That's like, I can't even remember seeing that type of figure. And I used to run stats as a job, literally a job in Serie A. I cannot remember seeing 0.1. It doesn't happen. So to go, and then they actually finish. I've got it as a banner here. It's 1.27. All of that came within the last 15 minutes. Let these guys run free. Let them get up the pitch. Let them make themselves dangerous. Because when this team sits back, you have a bunch of guys who do not like sitting back. You have guys who want to burst forward and create plays. And I just think it's counterintuitive, honestly. Let's hit some of the comments before I keep talking, going off on tangents. The starting line was offensive, and we lost the midfield. Losing the midfield, like I was mentioning, sitting back and letting these guys dictate and do what they want, playing zone. I don't think it's to our strengths. Marco, how are you, Marco? Said that's it. We're good and offensive, but manager makes us look bad. So I've been discussing that tactically, right? Roman says, and I think this is another big issue, do not remember when we scored from the open play. I can't remember. Actually, one, it's been a very long break, almost 2-month break. But so far, even last season, Roma was the team who led Serie A, if not Europe at times, with the most goals from set pieces. We need to see the attackers linking up with one another, making dangerous plays, because at this moment, I saw some decisions around the top of the 18, around Milan's 18, that were just not good enough. When this team holds the ball, they look good, Martin says. Yes, they do. Absolutely. Crisp passing at the end. Yes, when they wanted it. It took them 82 minutes to play like they wanted it. And I just don't get it. It's frustrating for me. Sufyan says, we feel bad because our opponents had the ball more, but in actuality, they did nothing. We are the best team in the league on XG conceded. That's an interesting stat you bring up there. And I actually thought the same. It's like Salik gets crucified. The instance that he does take space up the pitch, he gets killed there. And Leao, the most dangerous player in the league, makes him pay for it. And the other comes off a loss in concentration. And I think that's actually my third bullet I had in my notes here was concentration. Guys, set pieces, keeping an eye on your marks. Like, to me, that was basic. I have no idea how Ibanez took his eye off the player there, but then he makes it up. So it's like, oh, okay. It took 85 minutes to make that happen, but whatever. SP's not satisfied. He says, played terrible, don't care. This is like a win. HJ says, you can't risk very fast players so early. They will carve us open. But at the same time, I feel like Roma does have fast players. Zalewski is one of the fastest players in the league. Like, he should be busting his butt and given more space, more opportunity to run free. Pellegrini is also a player who puts in a lot of mileage. He runs like more than probably 6.5 to 7 miles, more so than that he runs per game. Abraham is a very fast player. Dybala is fast in short bursts. He accelerates like a cheetah. Anyway, keeping looking through these. Probably Matic goal versus Torino in open play. Possible. But once again, I want to see more opportunities come. Like, I don't want to fall back on, the ref should have done this. And keep the comments coming. But like, to me, I don't want to blame the refs when for 75 minutes our XG was 0.1. Like, to me, there's got to be something more. There's got to be something a lot more. Ragav, nice for joining. Thanks here, man. Wayne, there are a lot of people who want to know the translation of the press, post, and pre-match. Give that. Yeah, as soon as that comes out, I'll do that. I can do that from Italian to English. I don't need to wait until it's put in the news. I could, as long as you don't mind me like looking at the screen a little bit and taking a moment to compute it in my head. It's like you ever see the Hangover where the one guy and he goes to the poker table and you have like there's like a meme of it and there's like the pluses and minuses. He's doing like the math in his head. That's what it feels like when I have to translate. Um, yeah, and then those guys were funny. The couple there. Thanks, man. Thank you. Roman says, I think we lost 90% of the duels until the very last moments. Okay, so I went through concentration, went through work rate, and all that improves, of course, as this match goes on. Proper positions for respective players. I want to talk about this for a second. I don't think Zanyolo's key position is on the right wing anymore. When he is allowed to be more of like a number 10 around the opponent's box, I think that's it. And I don't know if under Mourinho you can or ever will see the best Zaniolo. Because what I'm seeing now is a guy who wants to get shots off when he's very far away from net. And if we are going to see him produce big numbers and get the contract renewal and become like a Roma legend or whatever, he could become and decides with his own destiny, it's only going to come, in my opinion, if he's around the final third, if he's around the keeper's box, if he can get those shots off and take players on 1v1. Because what he is doing now is he's isolated on the right wing. He's forced to, I don't want to say he's forced to, but he often looks for the goal when there's easier options presented. But he doesn't have that brain. He doesn't have that type of playmaker, or he's not a providing player. He's a guy that scores. Think about the types of goals that Zanyolo has scored in his career. Think 2-3 years ago, right? He puts defenders on their butts when he's in the box. And I'm thinking of that goal he scored versus Sassuolo, like I said, 3 years ago now. And that's where he needs to be. So a manager who wants to get him inside the box and to take chances. So, yeah, I do think he is a number 10. He's like a 10, between a 9 and a 10. Also, think of the goal that he scored in the Conference League final, right? He receives that ball deep from Mancini as the team pressed forward a little bit, took their space. He settles it down with his chest, takes a shot. It was 2 touches. Settles it with his chest, shoots, goal. That's it. And he doesn't score goals with these complicated maneuvers where he has to work throughout the entire pitch. Okay, looking through some of this stuff here, some of these more comments. Marco jumps in. Cristante, also not a defensive midfielder. The best moments of his career at Atalanta came as a center attacking mid. Scores 12 goals in the 2017-18 season. Pellegrini, not a center mid. That's proven today. He approaches that position the same way he does when he's playing out on the wing, which is like a roaming player. However, under Mourinho, that is not what is required of defensive midfielders. Perhaps there's something I don't know about. Perhaps he's given more leniency in his role from the manager. Maybe he's told, like, you can go out there, you can, play however, what you see fit, fill in the gaps wherever there's spaces, make the team click a little bit more. Perhaps that's the conversation. But throughout Mourinho's career, it's been a double pivot system, 2 defensive midfielders, both occupying a right and a left, shifting 10 yards apart from one another. And that's not really what I saw in the Matic-Cristante partnership. I'm sorry, the Pellegrini-Cristante partnership. We see that improve when Tahirovic comes on. I think he's a much better fit. We've only seen him in instances at this point, less than 180 minutes throughout his entire professional career. However, he seems more adept. He seems like the guy who wants to go in and protect this team. Yes, Paul, this draw is much better than ice cream. Yeah, it's much better than anything I could have expected. Honestly, going into this, it was always going to be an uphill battle. But I want to take a look at, going back to this, a little bit about the starting formation. Let's check this out here. So we've got Abraham at the start, and then, as they're calling them, the Fab Four, Zanyolo on the right, Dybala, and then Pellegrini behind. We see Zalewski get the start on the left, and Salik, who we've mentioned, out on the right. I've got to get rid of this comment for a second. Sorry, Marco. And also this one, this banner, and then maybe we could finally look. Yes, and with the tried, tested, and tough Mancini, Smalling, Ibanez, and Patricio, I think that this team has what it takes to win games, to win big games. But right now, I think there are a lot of present problems that are going to take serious time in order to solve. I do not see a team that looks comfortable sitting back. I see a team that wants to get forward. And this is, by the way, sorry, that's not us. Going into this, Milan were undefeated in 32 of their last matches in Serie A. And that's a staggering figure. So now it's 31 out of their last 33. But still, it shows you that the odds were always stacked against Roma. And if we look at the standings right now, I want to show you just how close that we are, how close Roma is getting. Take a look at that. 37 points Milan in third. And once again, defending champions. They were in second going into this match, and Roma with 31. So now we're 6 points away, 17 matches in, almost halfway into the season. 18 will be halfway. And we're 6 points off last year's winner. It's not the worst. And like I said, these are long-term issues, I think, which are taking a little bit long to solve. Because previous to this, Mourinho said, I want to see some of these players take a long, hard look in the mirror with this time off. And have we seen that yet? I don't know. I really don't know, because for the majority of this match, I'm cursing at my TV and frustrated. And then for the last 13, 14, 15 minutes, I'm ecstatic with the way that they're playing. It's Jekyll and Hyde. What I was very mystified to see, though, is when Roma concede, they don't immediately go into a way that, sometimes when a team gets scored against, you'll see an immediate reply. They'll try to get up the pitch as quick as they can. Instead, Roma deployed the same tactic that they did previous to the goal. So when it was 0-0, or compared to when it was being down a goal, they put the same exact way and played the same exact method. To me, that was strange. And they waited too long to go and play their game. Once again, I want to show this XG. Look at that. And Milan's went way down. For a moment in time, they were doing pretty good. See a lot of people in here, guys. Keep putting in the comments. Hit the like button. Do me a favor. Send this to all your Romanisti in your group chats, on Twitter, social media, Facebook. Send it to your mom. Thank you. Tell them to subscribe and all that good stuff. And thanks for joining me here today in this exciting, partially exciting, majority frustrating match. I'm going to get to some of the comments as well here. Okay. I'll take this down. This overlay. Okay. They're coming in. People on Twitter not being very nice to Zanyolo. Do you think he's finished? Do you think he has a future? What I was saying a little bit about Zanyolo before is I think his best role is when he's around the opponent's box. However Roma's playing, they need to get him closer to the goal. It's too much to ask of the way that he plays right now, currently, still as a young player, still in his revival season, for his first season, coming back from the injury, any time off, and that he needs to be around the goal. I don't think his time is done at all. I don't think he's done or he's finished as a player. I just think he needs to be in the right place at the right time, and he'll very much benefit from that. And I think it's going to be a click. I think that you'll see him, hopefully, this is what I hope, is that one day it just starts to really click with him. And he has a manager that he vibes with and a manager who understands him, and he understands exactly what's required from him. Because right now, it still looks like there is some separation between the idea on paper and what we actually see as a product. I guess you could say Roma are Juventus's favorite allies today, because we slow Milan down and Juventus moves into temporary second place, being tied on points because of the head-to-heads, as you can see here. So Juventus leapfrogs Milan based on paper. So we'll see what happens in the second stretch of the season. But Juventus is looking very, very good right now, grinding out wins. And, good, maybe not fluid, but good in the sense that they keep getting 3 points and they're grinding out these wins. McLovin, he says, I understand the back five, but we need more players in the midfield. Our wingbacks are not producing much, so I would suggest we go to a 4-3-3 formation. I've wondered often about this, and the one thing I keep hearing from Mourinho's press conferences is he feels that there is not enough. He doesn't have enough players, and Pinto has said this in his press conference last week, that he doesn't have the personnel because there's only 4 center backs that he can rely on, and that's just not enough for him. So, okay. Paul says this 2-2 will carry weight with the size the season moves on. Hopefully so. HA says, go watch City and see good football. Passive Roma used to play good football. And okay, so yeah, City play good football, but you're never going to get that with Mourinho, where it's like this fluid, advancing, hard-hitting football. It's always going to be grinding out wins. Like so much of his career has been based upon that 1-2, 2-1 victories, 1-0, 2-0 at best, right? And those were with exceptional players throughout his career. And I think that still we don't see the Mourinho finished product. Will we with these players? Are these players their best when they play with Mourinho, or are they more adept at playing with a manager who plays a little bit more of a possession based, a little bit free flowing? I don't know the answer to that. Thoughts on Tahirovic? Very good. I really like him a lot. I think he's a good guy who can protect the midfield, and he's a big body, and he seems to get it. He seems to get what his manager is asking of him. I think this could be a player who sticks around for hopefully a very long time in Rome. And right now, I think you just have to say applause to the Primavera system and the development. Tahirovic, I believe, came over last year, but still part of Roma's development program. I just hope these two games spark Tammy's resurgence, Ben says. Yeah, me too. He started to get his flick-ons and hold up play much more so around the 75th minute. And we see him get more integrated. I think that's always got to be his job. Whether he's muscling off center backs and holding up the ball and drawing fouls, or bursting forward into the keeper's box when there is a long pass down the flank, or Dybala gets it and he's looking for someone to combine with. At times, we've seen distance between Zanyolo and Abraham. So the partnership, to me, looks a lot more natural when it's with Dybala. But anyway, Marco has his thoughts on Mourinho. Okay, so we spoke about Zanyolo and his decision-making and how I just don't think that his best position is on the right wing. At oftentimes, his chances look desperate. At times, he just doesn't look comfortable. But moving on, I think I've made my point clear there. Roma's heat maps. If I were to look at a heat map right now, I would say it would be very red in the middle of, in between Roma's defensive, or I should say, in the middle line between Roma's defensive third and like maybe 40% of the pitch, right in that hole where they tend to want to funnel the opponent, right? Where Cristante and Pellegrini and then Matic and Tahirovic would be. Right there is where Roma's always looking to get the ball back. But what I need to see more is like clear counterattacks. Because today, once again, Roma's goals come from what? Counterattacking plays. I'm sorry, set piece plays. How were the majority or many of Roma's goals scored last season? Set pieces. So in there, we see that the way that Mourinho wants to play is still not being employed, guys. Still not the end game. Still not the goal. Has not been reached. Anyway, let's look at some other statistics here. There we go. Let me get your banner down. There we go. Okay. Shots, 12. Tied there. On target, though, 3 versus Milan's 5. 38% possession, or is that 36? Let me do the math. 38 possession for Roma, and that's it's nuts. Like, that's Mourinho ball, holding less than 15%, holding less than 45%. I'm not used to this as a Roma fan, seeing such a lack. For Rudy Garcia from Fonseca to Di Francesco, you would average 52 to about 58%. But now it's radically different. And I don't think you needed me to tell you that, but it's just good to look at the actual percentage there. Roma also with many less passes, but that's, part of not holding as much possession. The referee was very happy with his yellow card today, a little bit too much, as we see 7 picked up for Roma. I believe, is it Ibanez who's out the next match versus Fiorentina? I believe so. Anyway, offsides 1, which is weird. Zero offsides for Milan, which is strange. So not only was their XG very low, but also their offsides. And I think that may indicate that Roma is settling in much better, absorbing pressure, being a little bit smarter. Of course, I know what you're thinking. The Saliq play comes from him biting up a little bit too much and Leao taking advantage of that. You could put any right back in the league, and it could be the same thing. Don't get too hard on Salik. Let him build up. Let him get used to Serie A. Let him get used to his teammates. Don't forget that he missed a large portion of the first half of the season. Anyway, okay. Anything else I want to get at here? Guys, keep the comments coming in as long as we're being cool and always supporting the club, right? Okay. Rawan says, thought Salik had a good game today despite the early card. Yeah, it's like I said, man, he's settling in and he needs time. We're always, I think as fans, like emotional, and that's part of it. Players are emotional. Sometimes it just gets to you, but you have to consider the big picture here in that Salik just came over from France in a league that is not as tactically disciplined, with a manager who's not as tactically disciplined, and is now playing in one of the most difficult leagues in the world. And honestly, the French league is not all that difficult when you compare it against Serie A. Marco says, he's backing the players. Everyone knows it. I'm not the manager, or someone's not the manager. Anyway, yes, Marco, I have no doubt that you love this team. But anyway, we're going to move on from Mourinho for a minute. What a boost of morale for Tammy. Yes, surely he needs that one. And you see him at the end of the game praying, looking up at the sky. And, okay. Still wish the team had gotten Xhaka. There's a couple of center midfielders, I think, that have been mentioned in the press that would have really helped this team. Xhaka's one of them. I'm hoping Fratesi is one in the future. I think he could be very good. But I also think that one player we already own who's coming back soon will be very helpful to this team. That, of course, is Wijnaldum. Courage says, we're better off now than we were before Mourinho. I agree. I think that there are intangibles or non-tangibles that Mourinho brings. One is accountability. The other is professionalism. And perhaps another is emotional toughness. Being able to hold on to a game and sit deep and knowing when to strike is part of it. Was it too much today? Yeah, for my liking, definitely. But once again, I'm a fan. I don't know the game plan in the locker room. I see some names coming in the comments here, players that people like. What position did Roma bring in the past? Nothing, Big L. All right, not totally sure I understand all of that, but that's okay. Guys, let's look at the calendar. I'm going to try to get some, let's get some comments in here from some post-match stuff. I'm going to look online real quick. Abraham said something if my computer will load, as did Ibanez. So let's see what's going on. Just give me a second. I'm actually working with what is this called? An iMac. And it's a good computer, but I bought it in 2019, but before the chips were faster, much faster than they were today. So sometimes it takes my computer like a minute to load. I'm not sure I would suggest it. Get yourself like a 2021 iMac if you're going to do that, or just use your phone. Honestly, my phone is faster than my iMac, which is crazy. I'm just waiting for that to load, and as I wait, so I think now my computer is frozen. We'll get to that in a second. Okay, we finally got to it. Ibanez spoke to Dazin, and the first question is, it wasn't a passive Roma. You were only waiting for the initiative ball, and then so it's only waiting for the game to really start. And Ibanez says, yes, we really did that which we worked for in training. We really did what we were trying to do, and we had worked for in training. The manager, Mourinho, had asked us of this, and to always have patience and wait for the right moment. It arrived, and there's no need ever to give up. So going back to what I was thinking, right? I look at this, and I see Roma sit back for all this time. XG is low. But in actuality, what Ibanez is telling us here is that Mourinho told us, wait for the right moment to strike. Perhaps the players did not, and the manager did not see the right time, and he's waiting. At least that's my thinking here. What did he say to you all in this celebration? We know that the stop ball, is our strong force. So he's saying, like, we know that when the game is slowed down, we know that is our strength. We must always be strong on the ball as well. After the goal, we believed in getting one back, knowing that the game ends when the referee whistles. Abraham, come hai vissuto questo momento? How did Abraham live during this moment? How was he doing during this moment? He said, we always knew that he was bravissimo, inside the field and out, as he is a man. We must always have patience, us and him. The goals will arrive. The moments will arrive. It has arrived, and we are all happy for him. I was talking a little bit earlier this week about Abraham growing in his game and starting to get a little bit more confident. I'm very glad for him, as is Ibanez here. Okay, come mai la Roma aspetta tanto scemo? How is it that Roma awaited 85 minutes to push up and attack? We were mentioning this. If you have been with me for the first half hour from the get-go, I was mentioning, like, why does Roma wait until the 82nd minute to push? Ibanez's response, from the beginning, we knew that Milan with the ball would be with the ball strong. They would always be strong, holding on to it and running a lot at us. We waited a bit too long, but the result is in our favor. A point away, and where we can still continue our objective. We must get points in every match, Ibanez says here. And once again, I'm speaking a little strangely because I'm translating on the fly. Roma had the chance to reagire, ma per lunga tardi è stato. Roma had the chance to get back into the match, but at times they were passive. Your manager had asked you something. Did your manager ask you to get into it a little bit more on the offensive phase? He says, yes, in the first half it was difficult with the ball. We didn't find any space, and with the second half starting, we had a little bit more possession, and we arrived a little bit, we got up the pitch a little bit more. And then they started to press us on two balls, on two set pieces. We got two goals. Arrivati e gol. Perché avete questa difficoltà? Why did you have such a difficulty getting the ball into the back of the net? Is this a question of tactics or of character or characteristics of Roma's play? He says, I don't have the answer. It's just something that happened. Every game is different. There's always different tactics. There are matches in which we control better, and then there are those which are a bit more complicated. And that, once again, is Ibanez, and that Abraham, that press conference ended there. She spoke to Dazn. Now I've got the one coming in from Abraham, also speaking to Dazn, and he's got two comments. So I'm guessing that either this was a short press conference from Tammy, or it's just they don't have all of it transcripted yet. How has the year began for you, Tammy? He says, we know that it was difficult to play here, that we must be patient. Very much similar to what Mourinho said. Ibanez. Milan did well, and we knew that there would be few possibilities at goal. I said this on the free kick, that this was my chance. Then the ball arrived, and then I thanked God that I was in the correct spot. Nice. Oggi reato. And then the reporter asks, or says actually, today this was a reaction of a great team. And Abraham responds, yes, we are still being constructed. We're developing. I said at first that after the break we would return much stronger. We made a victory, or we won the game, and he's saying, like, so far we won the other day, and now we have a tie. And I'm sure that we have done a good game here. And today I'm also happy for the fans. We must continue so, and we're on the right road. So thank you if you could bear with me through that. But these are positive comments from the players. I'm sure that later, Mourinho is not going to have a post conference because he was suspended today, and we won't be getting that. But Zalewski's comments are also in here. So no, I'm sorry. Zalewski actually just made a post on Instagram. So a little bit of proudness. The boys do need something to be proud about. And you know what? regardless of if they played bad or good, taking the point away at the San Siro, which was probably likely sold out, with 5,000 of your own fans making the trip, and then gaining a point at the end and just popping Milan's balloon, you know what? That is something to celebrate about, even if it's you're not going to rest on your laurels here, because at the end of the day, I think that Roma's attack, the overall system, is far from being a finished product, and we're not at the end line remotely. Because guys, look, I'm going to bring up the standings again. There we go. Those are the standings. So we cannot be happy. We cannot be content until the objectives are reached, which in my opinion is getting back in the Champions League. Can Roma do it this season with the players measure? I don't know. That's like I said, that's not for me to decide. But I think that the objective still has to be fourth place, regardless of the circumstances, regardless if your key players get injured or whatever it has to be. You have to hang in there. And I know that it will be such a helping hand when Wijnaldum gets back, and hopefully some other solutions come about with this mercato. Today is, what is it? January 8th. Okay, so we've got more than half of a month to figure things out. And I know that Pinto will be working very much on that. Samson says, mistakes were made, but a pretty good result. Let us appreciate that. For sure. Samson also says, bring in an offensive midfielder, put Tammy, Zanyolo, Dybala on the front foot, then watch Roma bang them in. It's a good call, because we still miss that Mkhitaryan player, that midfielder who gets between not just the line between the defense and the midfield and who drops back to get the ball, but the one who advances it and who can, like Samson mentions here, the one who can provide those offensive players and let them get further up the pitch and be that missing link. Because right now, I think there is still very much a missing link. Okay. How do you comment us overflowing Milan's midfield and controlling the game the last 15 minutes? Is it Cristante's lack of ability or throwing bodies in midfield? I think that there was a real passion in the players, Marco, at the end of this. Like, they wanted it. And this must have been like the last, when I hear Ibanez and Abraham mention that we were waiting for the right moment, I think that they felt that this was their only moment. Whereas their game plan was probably wait until Milan become a little bit unbalanced. And then that never happened. Why did that never happen? Because they have two great midfielders in Tonali and Benacer. So Roma has to make something, and I think that comes from a real desire to want to go and get a point. And there must have been a time during this match where like Roma came together in like a hive mentality and said, this isn't good enough, and we need to go, and we need to get up the pitch, and we need to make something happen. And it was like the flick of a switch. It was very strange to see. So I think, to answer your question here, it's not just because like quality for quality, although I do think Tahirovic adds something there. Matic adds something there with fresh legs in midfield. But I think that it's really so much about the desire to go and want to win this game, be the first to the ball, and make something happen. It doesn't come from open play again, but it does come from desire and wanting it just a little bit more in those last 5 minutes. And you can't want a game for 85 minutes. You got to want it for the entire 90, plus the added time that comes with it. So, okay. Javi says Roma's in a good position to get into the top four. I think that they have a chance, man. Like, let's look. You're looking at Inter in fourth spot with 31. Inter is a team that Roma beat at their home ground. I honestly think that Milan could drop between the two of them. Both those teams can drop for sure, but I think that maybe Milan is probably the one that's more likely to drop. I just don't think they're a great side. I think they're a decent side. Decent sides win 70 to 75% of their games. And I think that there could be a lot more hiccups in Milan's team. If they were to lose a player like Leao, forget it, man. I don't know how many games that they're really going to win against top opponents, because I think he is their wild card. He's their X factor, game changer, whatever buzzword you want to use there. And just for anyone who may have come in a little bit late, guys, throw a like in. And I want to put up these stats once again just for you to take a look at. Okay. So, and as I mentioned, Mourinho will not be giving a press conference. He might have some comments tomorrow. And there's our guy. Who is your man of the match? I'm trying to decide right now between I'm going to say I'm somewhere between Smalling and Mancini, who I thought were really good defensively today. Abraham deserves a shout for his time at the end. Pellegrini did pretty well, I think, in the last 20 minutes. Who do you got? I'm going to look at the starting lineup one more time. It's not Zalewski. He was, fringe today. But I'm just going to look at that one more time. Cristante, Salik, that's Zanyolo, Ibanez, Smalling. Ibanez is like two-faced today, right? Because he lets the guy go, gets past him, Tomori, and scores. But then he scores the header to get us back into the game. This is so weird, but I feel like Ibanez is my guy of the match because he shows that he's human, makes a mistake, big lack of concentration, but then he gets back on his horse. Has actually a pretty decent game defensively, limits many of Milan's any goal-scoring opportunities. Any significant one came on that break, like with Leao. Other than that, no other opportunities. Unfortunately, it's the one that they convert on. So I think for me, maybe it's Ibanez and number 2, Tammy. And I just saw in the comments, Morin says that, and Ben also agrees that Tammy was man of the match. Okay, yeah. Look back to Bologna. Tammy makes a save that's as good as a goal, right? Because that was at the dead. That was actually like the last 7 seconds of that game. And then today, scores the game winner. So, yeah, maybe it is Tammy. Maybe he is the man of the match, honestly. I think you guys are persuading us. And Marco says it too. Okay. Anyone else for Tammy here? We got Salik and Mancini. Then we got Pellegrini for Marco. Adnan says, do you think the players should pass to Dybala a little bit more when he is in front or between the lines? Yeah, I saw that in the first 5 games of the season where Dybala would drop back so much and then they would initiate through him. Not seeing that as much. I'm not sure why. That's a good spot, good area to watch right now. Got a question coming in here from Ishmael. Wayne, do you think in the previous seasons we get 1 point from this game? Jose has changed our team's mentality. I agree. I don't think they do, honestly. In seasons past, Roma has always been criticized for their mentality. But to come back on that, it's big stuff. It does show mental and emotional growth. So this is kind of like a leading question, and I agree with Ishmael. Pellegrini better as a inverted trequartista, or I should say like this inverted winger / trequartista, a guy who can roam, who can contribute to the final third a bit more. I don't think center mid is his natural position. Well, you know what? It could be. It could work for Pellegrini in the center mid position when teams will sit back against Roma. But when teams like Milan, who we know will take it against Roma, then I don't think that's the match for Pellegrini. Because when he has to act as the double pivot and play zone defense, that's not his game. His game is being able to pick out passes, be a little bit imaginative, play simple passes into the final third, get the guys to click. I think that is Pellegrini's biggest contribution on the pitch. Guys, this has been very nice. We're almost at 44 minutes here. It's crazy. I think this is the longest post-match stream I've done. And let's look at the calendar a little bit ahead here. Okay. Actually, you know what? Let's look at some other scores around the league. Sampdoria get their butts kicked by Napoli 2-0. Or should say 0-2. Napoli was away from that one. Lazio tie Empoli 2-2. Another draw for Lazio. Spezia Lecce, boring 0-0. Salernitana Torino 1-1. And Monza gets the draw at home against Inter. So we see a lot of points dropped from the big teams this week. Bigger teams. I don't know if you want to count Lazio as a big team. Bigger. Let's see who scored for Napoli. We've got Osimhen. I know he got one. That was in the 19th minute. And then Elmas towards the end. Red card for Tomas Rincon. Big surprise there. Yeah, right. Lazio's goal scorers were Felipe Anderson, then Zaccagni. And look at this. Marin, 90 plus 3, scores for Empoli. Oh, and you know what? Caputo scored in the 83rd. So Lazio let up a 2-goal lead in 10 minutes in the 83rd, and then exactly 10 minutes after that, they blew the game. Not so good, Maurizio Sarri. Shame on you. Not good at all. Who didn't we get to here? Monza versus Inter. Darmian on the 10th, Martinez in the 22nd, and then Dumfries' own goal in the 93rd minute there. Dumfries' own goal. Heartbreaker for the Nerazzurri. It's gonna be crazy when it comes down to the Final Four. Roma's only gonna get better from here, guys. They will only improve as a team and get more fluid. So I'm not really afraid so much of oh, this is a long-term issue. I think there are long-term problems which will take time. And I pause there because I really mean it. I think that this will take time and these players need to grow together. Roma has added a lot of new faces in the past 2 seasons. Let them gel the way that Inter Milan has or Milan has. Speaking of Milan and how well they've been put together by Maldini, but they've also been given time. I think that's something to always keep in our minds. Pellegrini develops the play phenomenally when playing deeper. It's true. He does, but I think that he would be better at the top of a 3-man midfield if he had 2 guys behind him supporting him and giving him a little bit less pressure on him to have those defensive responsibilities, Marco. Let me know what you think of that. Okay. What was I just saying? Okay, we're looking at some of the scores around the league today. We've got Verona versus Cremonese tomorrow and Bologna versus Atalanta as well. That should be a pretty decent match. What I noticed today, which was kind of funny, was there was a lot of similar uniforms teams against one another. Juventus and Udinese, the Bianconeri, both of them. Salernitana versus Torino, both the Granata. Lazio versus Empoli, both in shades of blue. Sometimes Empoli wears a light blue. Milan-Roma, both in shades of red. Sampdoria Napoli, both in shades of blue. Even Spezia Lecce. No, maybe that's going too far. Okay. And then Fiorentina Sassuolo disrupt all of that with, well, I guess you could say the 2 teams which have unorthodox colors in green and purple for the league. But I thought that was pretty ironic as I looked at that. Also, if you're playing Serie A Fantasy, sometimes you'll see me writing the previews. So just check that out if you're into fantasy calcio as well. So I'm there. Also, guys, earlier this week, I had a story posted on Urban Pitch about Totti's 5-a-side league, or I'm sorry, Calcio Otto. Is it? Yeah, 7-a-side. So check that out for Urban Pitch. I'm going to put the link in the thread here once my slow computer wants to give me a break. Let's see. Where are you, Totti? Where are you? Here we go. Got it. It's a cool read. It talks a little bit about Umbro, who's making the kits now for his for the 8-a-side team, and they're doing really well. You'll know some players that he's playing with, like Antonio Floro Flores, Davide Moscardelli, and there's a few other faces that make the rounds with Totti right now. And let me get this into the comments. There you go. Need you doing some USL content. All right. Yeah, send it over. If there's a story you want, let me know. Thanks, guys. Yeah, only going to get better. So when I look at teams like Inter or Milan, are they going to get better? I'm not so sure. I think Milan may have peaked right now because they're not, regardless of who they get next, I should knock on wood, they're not going to get someone who can completely replace Leao if that contract does not get revolved. They still don't have a striker, so if they do get somebody really good, that can change the game for them. But I think Roma's has the most upside right now. We see Dybala getting back on his horse, the reintroduction of Wijnaldum soon, the introduction of Solbakken, who I think his directness and his link-up play could be really important to the side in the second half of the season, a player that Mourinho really wanted. We'll see what happens with the fringe players. We are in January. What happens to the guys who still have some value, high wages, who are not really ever playing or starting? What's going to happen to them and who will be brought in to replace them? So there's a lot to watch here. Also, let me know who maybe you would like me to bring on as a guest on this show. I had Martino Puccio earlier in the week, a few days ago, talking to us about Milan. Last week, I had Nadette, who is a great Roma fan. She's from Malta, and anyone who you think I should link up with. Also, if you want to join one day, let's talk. Anyway, ciao, guys. Drop a like. Let me know what you think. And we'll be back for, you know what, I wanted to look at Roma's schedule. Let's see who we got next and what is coming up. January 12th, Thursday, Genoa. Roma plays at home in the Coppa Italia. Genoa, of course, in Serie B right now. And then next Sunday, Roma plays at home against Fiorentina. I'm going to be loving that one. I've got some pretty good friends in Florence, and I would really be relishing this one. Also, Fiorentina has a pretty cool group in New York, and sometimes they'll come to the Roma Club in New York to watch it with us. It's a cordial relationship. It's a decent relationship between the two clubs. Spezia Roma, January 22nd, Spezia at home, and then Napoli Roma, January 29th. So we round off the month of January with a very tough match against the league leaders, currently leaders, and the best team, one of the best teams in Europe at the moment, definitely top 5, if not 3, this Napoli. So we see that Spalletti, hey, he was a great manager after all. Maybe he just needed some support. A lot to unpack there, and I think maybe time for another episode. But Roma snatching a point late at the San Siro. Let me know what you guys think. Also, if you want to contact me throughout the week on Twitter, Instagram, whatever, probably Twitter is better, or even here in the comments, do so as well. And drop those. I'll be checking out each and every one. Let me know also where you're coming in from, which country, what time zone you're in. Right now, it's 5:51 for me at night. So I'm going to go have some dinner, get the house in order. It's a big week. Good luck at work. Take it easy. Try not to get too caught up in the week. Enjoy yourself. Make yourself something nice. Let's talk soon. And exercise. That has been very important for me lately. I went skiing this weekend. It was awesome. There's not much snow in New York, but I made the best of it. I feel like that's something also to take with life. It's like sometimes whatever your circumstances are, make the best of it. You bring the energy there. Have a good time. Sometimes you need to make a good time for yourself. Some advice my grandfather told me a long time ago. And thanks, Ali. Yeah, let them know too. You gotta let these guys tell them, like, yo, we need Wayne. We need our Wayne up there. Get him in. Anyway, we'll talk soon. We'll talk during the week. I'll be back doing a little stuff for the Genoa preview as we look towards the Coppa Italia, and maybe we'll even do like a Serie B episode. Looking at the teams and what they've been up to. Maybe a bit about Palermo, Bari. I think that might be pretty interesting. So. Maureen, let those guys know too. Let John and the guys over there at Roma Press know what you think. Maybe they have some ideas for us to work together. Talk soon, guys. Ciao. Thank you for tuning in.